Hey, so why do those that experience abuse protect their abusers? I've been diving into exploring more of the effects of experiencing narcissism, um, and that being a core of what I was raised with. Um, and beyond that too, because you tend to be, I'll speak for myself, I went toward what I was comfortable with, and that was narcissism. And so, like, my first handful of relationships had a lot to do with that. Not all of them, but um, a couple of them, and one that got really, really bad. But anyway, I've been thinking about this, and I had this perception come through around this, and I wanted to share it and kind of see what other people are experiencing in regard to this too, because I know I'm not alone here. I have found over the years that I protected those that abused me, so much so that I abandoned myself, which is, kind of how that just operates, right? But the thing is even after, like, getting out of that way of life, I still find myself doing that sometimes, and I've been getting curious, why? Because if it were as simple as, oh, I love them, blah, blah, it's deeper than that. That is the surface layer excuse that was good enough for a while, but that's not the driving force of this. There's a protection mechanism being operated when we excuse the abusers. And I'm not saying this from a perspective of, after you've healed and forgave and all that stuff. Like, when you're in that space, you're not excusing their actions. What I'm saying is, when we outright say or feel like, oh, it wasn't that bad, when you're in denial about it, when you're excusing their actions, their repeated actions that are harmful one way or another, when you allow your boundaries to not matter, that's what I'm talking about. When they keep doing the same shit over and over again, and you excuse it over and over again. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Not like the healed stuff. I'm wondering, and I've got some of my own things here, so, there's that, but I'm curious as to what others have to say about this. What do you feel like, if this resonates with you, what do you feel like, or what perspective do you have in regard to either yourself or others that provide excuse after excuse after excuse, protecting their abusers? Why do you think that's happening? Again, that surface layer of because you love them and you want to protect them. Cool. That's an excuse, though, because if it were as simple as that, you wouldn't do it, because that's self-abandonment. Ultimately, that is saying what they did, just because they have a reason, it's okay. What is the driving force with that? What does the abused person get out of that dynamic of saying, oh, they have this, that, and the other reason, so, it's whatever, it's excusable? Why are you doing that? Why are we abandoning ourselves to protect the person or people or institutions or whatever that caused harm? Why are we protecting that? What do we get out of that? It is not just because we love them. It goes much deeper than that. What are we getting out of that? I have some ideas, but I'm really curious and I want to hear what other people have to say about that too. Let's play with it, because there are so many angles to look at healing and trauma and abuse, all of that. And I feel like it's really important to see why we keep abandoning ourselves for the sake of the people, person, whatever that hurt us. Why do we, in that type of space, matter so little? Why are they more important? What are we getting out of that dynamic? It's much deeper than it looks. Love you.